Thank you for tuning in to the Transcend Within podcast. This episode is brought to you by our sponsors, BRC Insurance, the #1 insurance broker serving the Latino community in the Americas, and Deval Virtual Assistants, serving business owners and insurance brokers across America. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Transcend Within podcast. I am Monica Duaning, your host, and extremely excited to bring you Senator, now I can say it, Robyn Kennedy, because I keep saying Senator-elect or future senator, but now she is senator. So I am super excited to bring her in so you can learn about her story, learn about her, what is the work that we are doing. And this means a lot to me because actually we met last year. You know, she was campaigning, but she's a president and came to our women's events, and she's super involved in the community. And I am super excited to see the changes that she will be making here in our dear, beloved Worcester, Massachusetts, and other areas. So welcome, Robyn, to the show. How are you today?
Good morning, Monica. So good to be with you here, and so good to see you.
Same here. So super excited because I really don't know what you have prepared for us today. And I am always excited to learn about people in a different capacity, right? So I will say, the question that I always ask is like, who's really Robyn? What is her story? How did she got here? Those like 4 or 5 questions at once. And it might take us a little while to unfold them. But take us through the journey. Who are you?
No, and thank you for being here. And thank you, as you noted during the introduction. I'm so excited as well that we got to meet this summer while we were kind of both in and around doing different events. And I appreciate the opportunity to join you. And I appreciate and want to express that appreciation of the work that you do in our community, particularly to uplift and highlight women in our community. That's so incredibly important. And I was glad to join you over the summer at some of your events doing that, as well as continuing to work with you. I think that's so important. I say all along and said this throughout the campaign, and really is the core of how I intend to perform, to be a senator here, is that there's so many amazing things happening in our community. When we look at some of the greatest challenges that we're facing, the solutions exist already in our community, and it's often community that's kind of finding the ways to make those solutions happen. And so for me as senator, really my job is to just turn into our community and to really uplift those solutions, uplift the amazing work that's happening. So I look forward to a long time working with you in that capacity going forward. So so I'm excited. I'm, a week in. We just got sworn in last week as state senator for the 1st Worcester district. So it's certainly been a whirlwind over the past several days. Really excited to have my team together. Starting, we've got the core of our team. As I mentioned, we were talking a little earlier about Giselle Rivera Flores, who went from being my social media director during the campaign, is now going to be my communications in my Senate office. And I'm just so excited to have her on my team, but also to see where this takes her in her career, really building a portfolio of having that government and political experience. And so, that's really what my life in my work it has been about, and certainly what I hope for to continue to be about is to uplift community, and particularly people that don't typically have access to spaces that I've had the privilege of having access to in my life.
Yeah. And people might think you've been in politics your entire life, but that's not exactly true. So tell us a little bit about, your background, where you came from, why you actually decided to go on this path, right? Because I think that's something people need to hear, because I know politics wasn't always like your primary thing. So let's unfold that a little bit and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. Well, I've been fortunate to spend most of my career working in and around government and politics, so working directly for some elected officials, such as former state senator Ed Augustus, such as Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray, Governor Deval Patrick, Congressman Jim McGovern. But I never really necessarily envisioned myself running for office. I've never run for office before. I've had the opportunity to work on several campaigns in my life, so I've gained that experience. And, we all know Senator Chandler, and she's been such an incredible, important legacy in our community. And, one of the things I said, she was the first woman from our area to be elected to the Senate. And that's incredibly important. But for me, what I think really is her true legacy is that she was always consistently a bold and proactive leader. She's somebody that set the standard for what it means to reach into the community, to be proactively seeking solutions to the challenges we're facing, to address, you look at the Roe Act when, we knew even years ago that they were coming for Roe v. Wade, that she was, fighting ahead of time to make sure that Massachusetts was positioned to be strong, to protect our right to choose if it was overturned, and ultimately it was. And so for me, I knew when she decided that she was leaving that we need that kind of bold leadership to continue, and proactive leadership. And so, I'm a big fan of our mayor, who is ultimately my opponent in the race. But for me, democracy is about competition. It's about conversations. It's about choice for voters. And so I thought that, the voters really deserved a choice. And there was a couple folks who I talked to who were thinking about running, ultimately decided not to run. And so I said, you know what, let this be the opportunity. Maybe this is the time for the calling to jump in. And so ultimately decided to do so. And, what was really great for me is the campaign team, which I know you've had the opportunity to know and get to work with, the campaign team. Knowing that I have had the experience working on campaigns, know how to run campaigns, for me, it was really about an opportunity to bring in some folks who haven't worked on campaigns in the past, to be able to share that experience. And really, that's for me, really I feel is my responsibility to be able to pay it forward. I've talked to members of my staff that I've hired, said, I hope, as I'm hiring you to work in the Senate office, that you someday are planning to run yourself for office, that this is a great way to gain government experience, just as I had that opportunity, and hope you will continue. Because for me, it's so important, particularly as women, that we're really paying it forward, and that we're making sure that we're building bridges and building opportunities as we carry privilege in certain spaces. So
that's truly amazing. And I mean, it is also important to understand that not because you haven't done it before, it's not possible, right? Like it was a lot of hard work, and I think you surrounded yourself with pretty amazing people that wanted the same as you wanted, right? Like the focus, the alignment was there. And when you have that people behind you, it makes it so much easier, right? Because then you're all working for this same focus, same purpose, same as business, right? Like it's just when you are surrounded by people that can actually make you win, regardless if it's you're running for politics or just overall you are in the workplace. um Surrounding yourself with people that makes you win and that will make you win, it makes the entire difference. And I think opening that door for people that might not had that opportunity unless you gave it to them, um it means the world. It means the world. So I'm pretty sure that you have a pretty loyal team around you.
yeah, no, and I say that too, and I've said that since the campaign. What I've seen working on campaigns, for the past several years, and I've seen it myself in my campaign, is that voters are looking for leaders who are going to lead. They're looking for people with ideas, with stances. I say we probably won't agree on all of them. I won't agree with everyone on everything, but I think from what I've seen in talking to voters is they just want to know that the people that they're electing have good, strong values and have ideas about how we can bring the weight of government to help and drive towards solutions and support people rather than continue to stand as barriers to people. And so, I say that to echo what you said of, anyone can do this and everyone should. And, it is a lot of work. There's no silver bullet in campaigning, but I am a strong believer the closest thing to it is just knocking on doors and talking directly to voters and introducing yourself. And that's what I did, running up against somebody who did have really strong and wide name recognition. I had to spend every day, all day, just out talking individually to voters, knocking on the doors, having those conversations. And, it not only helps that, like I said, I think it is the best campaign strategy if you're willing to put in that work, but it also helps grow. I think of so many of the conversations I had this summer that really helped me kind of really formulate my position on issues, or really kind of expand as I talked about childcare and the importance of early education and care and the care economy, and then recognizing and hearing from folks who are struggling on the other end of the spectrum who can't find home health care for their aging parents. And so really this is a much broader issue. And so hearing those stories, having those conversations, it's mutually beneficial. But like I said, for anyone that's looking to run, and I'm super excited if we have some time to talk about, we have some amazing candidates running for the municipal elections this year. So I'm really excited of the change I think we're going to continue to see.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about your focus on, minorities, women, children, elderly. I think, it's great to focus on the economy and building, the economy forward, but you have a little bit of even though like eventually those things will yield that, you have a little bit of a different focus. And I would like people to understand your why behind the focus that you selected for minorities, women, children, elderly.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to state for me, particularly, and I, continue to try to ground myself in this of, regardless of the policy that we're talking about, regardless of the issue, that we're beginning by focusing on people who are most marginalized, who are most impacted, because we know as a community, if we are focused there, then we are going to be able to lift up our entire community. So when we look at housing as an example, if we're focusing on building housing towards those who are struggle the most to be able to access it, struggle the most to be able to stay stably housed because of substance abuse, mental health issues, whatever the case may be, poverty. If we're focusing on that, then we're going to lift our whole community because others are going to be able to access. But for me, really from a policy perspective, my number one priority is focusing on the care economy workforce in particular. And, we look at, I came from the YWCA. So much of our programs, including domestic violence services, early education and care, transitional housing, so many of these services are part of that care economy. And the care economy is defined broadly as anyone who shows up to take care of somebody else for their job. And, unfortunately, we've undervalued and quite frankly underpaid these workforces for so long that we've just completely seen them decimated during the pandemic. I mentioned childcare, I've mentioned home health care, home health aides, nursing home employees, paraprofessionals in our schools. Excuse me. And it's important to recognize that if you look at the faces of these workforces, they're mostly women of color, and immigrants, which quite frankly is, I believe, why we let them be undervalued for so long, but why we also need to be specific in centering equity and delivering strategies. And again, when I talk about it lifts our whole community, these workforces are all services that we all need. I don't know of a parent that hasn't thought about or been concerned about childcare or early education for their child. I don't know an adult who has parents that are aging that isn't concerned about how they're going to care for their parents. And I heard so many times during the campaign about people who had to drop out of the workforce themselves because they have to care for their aging parents. And so, it benefits the whole community when we really invest. And, I think for me, it's really a priority on building and investing in these workforces.
Yeah. Even for planning, I mean, the reason I stick to one child is because of those same reasons, right?
Mhm.
Childcare, who's gonna help? Like, I don't have any help. I
Right,
live by myself with my husband, and we both have to work,
right,
right? So even for the future of our planet, right, more and more the younger generations, like I'm a millennial, and younger are deciding, oh, we're only gonna have one kid, or we're not gonna have kids. So
right.
our future, as population goes, is also at jeopardy if we don't have these things, taken care of, or if we don't work hard enough to try to solve this problem for the future. Just because, my daughter is 11 years old, and since she is 3, I've been paying, I mean, I could have a mortgage paid off as of right now.
Right, right.
paying for paying for daycare, and I still have to pay for daycare even though she's 11, because I need someone to pick her up from school. I need her to go somewhere until
Right.
I get out of work. So, and then, my parents are in another country, so we have to pay for care over there as well. So it's just so hard, so hard. And I feel that, for us middle class people, right, it's becoming a lot more difficult for us to see the light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to like family planning, right?
Right,
Because it's like, no, it just simply cannot happen.
right, right. And it's,
So
yeah,
there is so many details, and as as children grow, parents get older. Like, one of the things actually my daughter told me the other day was like, I don't know if I want to have any kids, and she's 11. She's like,
right.
you guys work too much, and I don't want to have the responsibility. She's 11. So,
Yeah.
like, if we don't start now, it's definitely going to be a little harder than it is right now for the
Absolutely.
future generations.
Well, in addition to making care affordable so that
Mhm.
families can actually access it, we all know, right, that education is the great equalizer in society, and that every child should have equal access,
Mhm.
equitable access to that education beginning at birth. I
Yeah.
think about, working in childcare, and I am so, I cannot ever give enough credit and praise
Mhm.
to early education and care educators, because, I look at, they have at the YWCA, and I know it's across the board. In the infant room, they have curriculum, right? They're doing programming with infants. They're doing programming and curriculum with the toddlers and with preschoolers to help them understand, their skills and develop, and to be able to learn language skills, and to be able to learn socialization skills. I mean, these are
Yeah.
these are tools that if we're instilling and we're teaching to 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds equally
Yeah.
across the board, we as a society are going to be in a better place 30 years from now,
Yeah.
because kids are having equal access to this start. And I think the pandemic highlighted that, when you look at children that didn't have access to early education and care, and then all of a sudden lost kindergarten because of the pandemic and schools being closed, or lost part
Yeah.
of first grade. And then all of a sudden there's 7 or 8-year-olds in second grade who've never had that opportunity to socialize
Yeah.
before. And we see where kids are falling back. We see where, and even in our after school program, where we're having to go back to,
Mhm.
dropping the academic curriculum in the after school program and focusing on social emotional, because kids are struggling to make friends and to
Yeah.
be, with other children. And so, it's such an incredible opportunity that every child should be able to access, in
Yeah.
part that families can be working and can be able to afford to, continue to work and have their children in care, but also so that all
Mhm.
children can have that education opportunity.
So what can we do? What is the role that we play?
Well, advocacy is so important. It's so, always for elected officials to hear about not only the struggles that people are experiencing, and we need to know that, but also what's working. What can we be amplifying and elevating at the state level? That's so important helping us build back these workforces. We're going to be, and I look forward to working with the Senate and my Senate colleagues. And last year, they actually passed a very comprehensive early education and care package that would have made it more affordable and really would have helped invest in the workforce. I look forward to working with my colleagues to be able to pass that again. We need the House and hopefully the governor to then sign that bill. And then we need people to come back into these workforces, if we're investing to make sure, because that's part of the problem. I say all the time, we have a lot of work to do at the state level to be able to invest in these workforces, but we're losing the workforce. And so, in Worcester at any given time, there's at least a dozen classrooms that are either closed altogether or at reduced capacity because we can't hire teachers. We're not paying teachers well enough, and that's why they're choosing rightfully to go into other jobs. But really, we need to be able to build back those workforces. But, I keep saying advocacy is so important, because when elected officials don't hear from representatives, then from their community, then they seem to think that things are okay and that there aren't issues that they need to be responding to. So,
I was really surprised. Not this year that is going through, but last year, last semester year for the school, whatever, 2021 to 2022. That period.
Yes, I'm with that school year.
My daughter had 5 teachers in less than a year because they kept leaving. They leave. And it is not just about the pay, but it's also about the respect. One of the classroom teacher that was, there for a long time, she was an amazing teacher, basically walked in one day with a box and packed up her stuff and told the students that this is their fault and that she's leaving her career as a teacher, and she was done, and she walked out the classroom. So they have to put all the kids on counseling, right? For that. But later on, like, the principal did a meeting and whatever. But also us as parents, right? If we don't advocate and we don't take responsibility for our actions on how we're also raising the children, one of the main reasons this teacher left is because there was couple different kids on couple different classrooms that will not respect the teacher. Like, they will talk back, they will, and I remember growing up, if I ever raise my voice to the teacher, I know it's not legal right now, and maybe it was never legal, but this is the way I was raised, right? And this is the power the parents gave to the teachers when I was growing up. Like, my mom will tell the teacher, if she ever even crosses your eyes at you, you hit her with the ruler, right? And I always had that fear that the teacher will hit me with the ruler if I ever did anything wrong, right? So I think, as a society, we have to take responsibility. We have to really teach our children that you have respect. It will take you places, right? And us as parents, we have to get involved in order to not just protect the children, but also protect those that are trying to help raise our children. Because my daughter spends more time with her teacher than she does with me, and that's just the reality, right? So I think, from many reasons, we should take a little bit more of an interest on getting involved, because we do all have the power of changing things one way or another. And the teacher problem is huge right now, and it's not really all the teacher's fault. Like, I don't blame the teacher. I don't.
No, absolutely. And part of the issue too, and like you said, it's not just the pay, it's also the workplace. We've underinvested in supports for teachers. So we have fewer mental health counselors in our schools than we've had. We have fewer supports, paraprofessionals, to make sure that when there are kids that need additional support. I mean, I think about, teachers that are in the classroom and that have to be the counselor, and they have to be the special needs support, and they have to be the bilingual support for students that English isn't their first language, and that, and we have a huge influx, which is wonderful. I hope Worcester continues to be a place where new Americans come first and start here. But we have to make sure that our teachers have the supports to help these students and these new students in the community to be able to get acclimated and get settled in. And so, I think we need to really invest to make sure that the teachers pay is important, but make sure that they have the supports they need so that our kids can have the supports that they need to be able to make sure that they're, cared for, in addition to actually learning while they're in the classroom.
Yeah. No, I think, there is so much to be done, right? And I don't think we will be able to get everything done in one lifetime, because it is what it is. But I appreciate, the work that it's been done by you, by others, on getting these matters resolved. Because, it not just comes from us having the money to afford, private education or whatever. uh, it is more about, as a society, how we're going to look like in the future if we don't really take a step forward into what we really want this to look like. And I never really understood the role that certain things played until like the past 2 years that I've been getting more and more involved, and that understanding that you really have the power to make a difference, right? Because it is, even though it's just a little bit, or is you think it's insignificant on your part as a citizen, your little insignificant part, the other person's little insignificant part, it becomes a very significant part, right? Like, people think they don't have the power, or they're insignificant, or they're just one person, right? But you matter. You matter, and your voice matters, and everything you do matters, to one person or another. Everything matters.
Yeah, no, and I think that you're exactly right. And, one of the things that I hope to be very involved with in this, and hopefully based on committee assignment that I might ultimately get, hopefully, but that, I really want to work to look at agencies like the Department of Children and Families.
Yeah.
And, there's so much mistrust, and there's so much, so many challenges we have to be able to address within the agency to make sure that we're caring for our children. But I've worked with social workers from DCF for many years, and I also appreciate from their perspective of the enormity of the crisis that they're trying to, have the right solutions to. But to your point, I always say, it takes the entire village, it takes the entire community. If you hear something or you see something concerning, we have to speak up. We have to address things early on, because
Yeah.
maybe at the beginning it's just additional support that the parent needs
Yeah.
before it becomes a crisis situation that causes harm. Maybe we can intervene sooner. We need more foster families. We look at, there's a huge crisis right now with what's happening with our foster care system. We need families to step up and be part of that solution. And so, to your point, and I wholeheartedly agree, is it takes all of us if we want a safer, healthier future.
Yeah.
We all have a part to play in that.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Let's talk about women a little bit. What do you have, or what is a message that you can give women today? Because, as you know, this podcast was made for, women, and providing uplifting support, stories of resiliency. From your story, from your path, what can you tell that woman that is listening today? What is a message for them?
Run for office. If you have any interest in this, I think so often we're conditioned to think we're too mediocre or that we don't have what it takes. It's I don't want to sugarcoat it to say that we don't face just certain discriminations, that it isn't more difficult. I think that, and I look at some of the women that I serve with in office that I know, and that I think it is because we lead with our hearts so often that it can be more challenging, more painful at times, but at the same time, that's why we're needed in elected office. And so I hope there's a woman out there that's listening that says, I've always wanted to try to take this role on. Call me if our values align. I'd love to work with you and I'd love to help you. And but I think that I think if we're so conditioned to hear that we're not good enough and that there's somebody else that's better, but we bring such incredible value. So. Or if you're interested in just learning how to get involved in politics, working on campaigns, working to support getting other women elected, call me too. I'd love to help you get connected in because, like I said early on, I feel it's so much of my responsibility that I want to carry to be able to make as much space as possible for women that want to be in this arena because we're stronger together. It's an exciting time right now, though, I have to say, especially at the state level. We've got a lot of women assuming roles at the highest levels of leadership. And so I'm excited to be there in this moment in time, excited to help the other women that are, governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, auditor, and helping them get, do their job and make sure that we're successful together because we'll all be successful. But we need to make sure that we keep that going. So if you're listening, ladies, run.
It's so exciting. It's so exciting. I mean, this year was so historical here in Massachusetts. It's just amazing. It's
Absolutely.
just amazing.
And in Worcester right now, we have school committee with the new districts. There's a few districts that don't have incumbents. Of course, any seat is open, even if there's an incumbent in it. But that there's city council opportunities and school committee opportunities. So I'd certainly encourage to folks to really strongly think about it and think about running. We need diversity in voices.
I love it. Well, Robyn, thank you so much for being here today and taking out time of your busy day. And I know it's just going to get busier with the year. But I cannot wait to see, how many more collaborations come into play and see what you can achieve and how we can help you achieve it. I love it. And I am very proud of you. And I am very grateful that we met and our paths crossed because, I am super excited about the changes that we can make here in our community. So thank you for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me and for allowing space for me to join you. And I appreciate it and ditto to everything. I look forward to working with you and working with our community to bring change to the State House.
Fantastic. We'll have an amazing day. And that's all for the show today, folks.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you to our guest, and we appreciate you listening and watching today. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Transcend with M on Instagram, at Monica Dwani on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and watch a repeat of this episode in our YouTube channel. Remember, keep resilient, keep growing, and keep being empowered. We will see you next week.